Another fond memory is losing the better part of a paycheck playing blackjack, acey-deucey, blood and guts, and other silly poker games with James Hall, who's sitting in the back of the room, and a few others while we were stranded for 7 days in Albuquerque, New Mexico, when a school band broke down on a return trip from Las Vegas. We broke down on Saturday, got the van into the shop on Monday, and left the following Saturday, so we were stranded there. I was probably 20 or 21 years old. Like I said, I'm coaching people who are the same age as me. When I was 20, 21 years old, pretty wet behind the ears and in charge. So that was scary to think about. I think I missed one there. Oh yeah, competing in the 1989 Masters here at Century 2, and just by dumb luck, coming down the aisle shoulder to shoulder with my boyhood idol, Earl Anthony. That was a thrill for me. That, by the way, did not result in one of the paychecks, but it was a thrill nonetheless. Later on, I got to meet Earl at a World Team Challenge event in Kansas City, and we stood around on the concourse and we told jokes back and forth. He was genuinely a funny guy, so definitely a thrill. Professionally speaking, I've been privileged to know many first-generation bowling business people, proprietors and others in the bowling business. And I'm talking about people like John Crum, Nadine Opplinger, Dale Frazier, Chuck Hardman, all of these people who built their businesses from the ground up. And they probably don't know this, but I've learned a ton just by being around those folks and listening to their stories. And for those of you that are still around, thank you all for that. I know Dale's here tonight, so thank you so much. And then it's fun now seeing your kids take over your businesses and run with them. So that's been a real thrill for me. Bowling the 1997 ABC tournament in Huntsville, Alabama on the same squad that the great Dick Weber did as he competed in his 50th consecutive national tournament, and having Dick stand in our picture that we took with the Chilton team, our team picture, was another thrill. 1995, I was lucky enough to advance to the Team USA National Finals in Reno, and at one of the banquets I got to sit next to the great Joe Norris, and Joe spent the whole evening talking to me in detail about his experiences taking a boat across the pond to Germany to compete in Olympic exhibitions during the 1936 Olympic Games, and that was a rare treat for me. Probably on the lanes, my greatest thrill was a close call that I had at the Super Bowl High Roller back in 2000. 1,960 players started that tournament. I made the final four, ended up finishing third. But the neater thing about that is had I won that match that I lost in the final four, I would have ended up playing against a former Shocker and a good friend of mine, Brad Kazuski, for the title and a $100,000 first prize. And the thing that is neat about that is Brad went on to win, and that certainly cushioned the blow of that near miss. But even with this, you can probably tell that most of my memories are centered around the people I've met, the friends I've made, rather than the accomplishments. I've been extremely lucky. Water break. George says, drink right out. If this isn't the Springfield pool.
You're lucky it's not here.
You know, for every Hall of Fame inductee, there's normally a long list of folks that get to share in what is often viewed as an individual honor. The fact is, it's never, ever an individual honor. Never. Because nothing truly great is ever accomplished alone. Those who have had an impact on my life and who share in this honor include the following folks. Got the tough one first. Roy and Annabelle Renollet. I started bowling for one reason. No one raised me. My grandma and grandpa played, and if they played, it must be pretty cool. You know, every chance I got, I would go to league with them at the Sterling Bowl in Sterling, Kansas, a little town up in Rice County, about an hour away from here. And I think to this day, that's probably why I have such an affection and passion for small town bowling centers. Not many of you probably know that about me, but These little places are treasures in their community, and I'm very passionate about that, and I think it all started there. You know, while most kids would be playing pinball or messing around on the pool table, I'd be sitting behind Grandma and Grandpa watching them intently, and then later on I'd go and try to emulate their styles. They were not great bowlers, but they certainly were great people. My grandma taught me what it means to treat everyone you come in contact with loving kindness. That's just how she was. And as for Grandpa, he taught me a no-nonsense approach to life. He really did. Mom and Dad, you know that. Along with a few four-letter words that I heard while hanging out in the shop as he worked on cars. He was a self-employed repair technician, worked on cars and small engines and all of that. And he invented a few strings of words, I think, on some of those occasions. But at any rate, he was not one to put up with a lot of BS, but he was a fair and honest man to the very end. They were model grandparents who left us about 18 years ago. And I'm forever grateful to them. Certainly, my maternal grandparents, Buster and Ola White, were also very supportive and took much pride in my bowling endeavors as a kid and into my adult years. They were terrific grandparents too, and I miss all four of them very much. Okay. Mom and Dad. You guys have been everything a good parent should be. You supported your kids in good times and bad, and you know, like any family, at one time or another, all four of us, my three siblings and I, have been a pain in the butt. And I know that may surprise some of you, but we have. And, well, at least three of the four of us. I keep waiting on Mary to screw up, and she just never seems to get it done. I have this one sister who just is perfect, and anyway, we love her very much, and I don't think that's going to happen. I remember as a kid, my dad bowled Thursday nights at Countryside Lanes in Hutchinson, and you know, I'm sure he would have dearly loved to have a night out with the men, but there was not any leaving this kid at home. And I went with him every week, and I even landed a scorekeeping job with some of the ladies bowling in the Thursday night league down the way. And now I get to be one of those old farts up here, because those you young people, you probably don't remember when you had to keep your own score. But anyway, editorial comment there. And so I'd go with Dad every Thursday night, and in spite of the fact he probably wanted to go out with the boys, I always got to go with him. And Dad, I appreciate that. And that reminds me of a little story. Back in those days, Countryside Lanes really was, I think, one of the premier bowling centers in the state of Kansas. It was managed at the time none other than by our own Paul Wallachek. The proprietor was Paul's father-in-law, Jeannie's dad, Lowell Pig, and it was a first-class operation all the way. And I remember one day, Paul, you may not even remember this, but I remember when my dad finally decided he was going to take up the game. Something that you should know about my dad is he was born with a little birth defect. And no, there's not going to be a punchline to this. It's a true story. He was born with a little birth defect. He doesn't have a thumb on either hand. He was born without thumbs. And so most of you are probably thinking, well, he's probably one of the first generation two-fingered bowlers, right? Well, no, not so, because aside from having no thumbs, he has all the flexibility and limberness of a 2x4. So you really can't do that two-finger thing without being able to cup your wrist and do all that kind of stuff. So and besides that, being that way from birth, he just used this as his thumb. His index finger is his thumb. And I mean, the guy can shuffle cards and turn on the garden hose and do all this stuff. Imagine everything you do like this, having to do like this. So he walks into Paul at the pro shop at Countryside Lanes and says, I want to start bowling, throw me a ball. And so and I was just a kid, and I still remember the look on his face, on Paul's face, about, oh my gosh, what have I gotten into? And so they went to work, and after a little head scratching, Dad walked out of there with a brand new shiny Brunswick Black Beauty and started bowling league on Thursday night. So fond memory of mine. Anyway, that's a sidebar. Back to the story. I'd go with Dad to bowl on Thursday nights, and on Saturday mornings, this kid who had to be pried out of bed with a forklift on school days was up before the crack of dawn and ready to go to 9 o'clock junior league. One particular Saturday, I got up, and of course I was up literally before dawn, and I got up, and pretty soon Mom comes walking in and informs me that she had awoke with a horrible migraine headache. And she told me, she said, "Son, I don't think I'm going to be able to take you to league. I just physically can't do it." And of course, me being a snot-nosed little selfish brat of a kid, didn't really care that Mom had a migraine. We had to get to bowling, and so after all, some dark being sick on Saturday morning. And so after I pitched a fit, Mom finally gave in. We got in the car, headed to the bowling center. We made it about halfway, and she begins to throw up in her lap. I mean, unbelievable. So she cleaned herself up and went to the bowling center, and Rich got to bowl. So Mom and Dad, I want to thank you very much for a lifetime of love and support. And again, a big part of this is yours, and I thank you so much. My teammates through the years, I've been so lucky to have a whole bunch of people that I've been able to call teammates, whether it be in league or tournament. I already mentioned the Chilton group: Kyle McCracken, Gordon, Mark, Bob, Mark Lewis, Mark Jensen, that bunch. Through the years, there have been many others, including Ron Penner, George Thomas, Ray Terry, Billy and Chad Murphy, Keith Rainey, many, many more. Been lucky to bowl with a whole bunch of folks. Now that I think about it, I guess I've gotten to play with so many different folks because no one can keep me around can't stand to keep me around that long. But nonetheless, I'm truly blessed, and these people who I've played the game with are a big reason why I'm still in it. And honest to God, it's about the people. My work team at WSU, I'm very privileged to work with an outstanding team of directors out at the Radigan Student Center. And without naming names, I work with a bunch of folks who run a college bookstore and campus food service, direct student activities events, as well as a bunch of support folks who take care of accounting and finance and building maintenance and IT and room reservations. And in addition to these, there's a team of folks who work for and with me and the Smith Bowling and Recreation Center. And I'm blessed with a very dedicated staff of folks who work hard every day. It's all of these folks have in their own way allowed me to continue to play in the sport that I love. So I'm also very excited to be working with them, especially now as we take our student union into the future with something called the Radigan Renewal Project. And this is a multi-million-dollar expansion and renovation that includes the addition of about 60,000 square feet to our building and a top-to-bottom facelift for the 52-year-old facility. And when it's complete, it's going to be a real showpiece for our university and a great place for students and staff to gather. By the way, if any of you have a few extra bucks laying around and would like to have a room named after you, or even a bowling lane, we'll even name a lane after you, I'm sure we can make that happen. So, I've had some really gifted bosses that I've worked for throughout the years. And I've always worked in a way that, I look at my boss and say, what can I learn from them? Because they've been doing this longer than me. They include people like Paul Wallachek. I worked for Paul for just a couple of years at Sky Bowl before heading off to WSU. And Paul, in just 2 short years, taught me what it truly means to be committed to a customer. When you work in the service business, you have to have a nonstop focus on the customer to be truly successful, and nobody knows that better than Paul Wallachek. He is a great friend. It's an honor to call him friend, and he's so deserving of the honor that he's going to get up here as soon as, if I ever get off the stage. Bill Smith. Bill was the director of the Campus Activities Center, now Radigan Student Center, when I began as an assistant to Gordon 25 years ago. And he was my direct boss for a lot of those years after I began running the center back in the middle 90s. Bill was a terrific supporter of the bowling program at Wichita State and was not afraid to venture into new territories. He's the first person ever to allow for a full-time bowling coach at a university. This decision was made about 16, 17 years ago and is what allowed me to take the job that I currently have. He taught me what it means to have high standards all the time, strive to do the best job you can do all the time, never settle for halfway. So I'm very appreciative to Bill. Jim Herman is my current boss out at the university, and As I said earlier, he's an Associate Vice President for Campus Life and University Relations and the Director of our Radigan Student Center. Jim took that role about 3 years ago when Bill retired, and just let me say it's been an eventful 3 years. We've developed a mission statement, implemented strategic plans, and now have embarked on this renovation and expansion project. And I can't think of anyone better to oversee that than Jim. Jim, you've given me a new appreciation for what can be accomplished when you work as a team. Everything we have done and everything we will do as long as Jim's in the driver's seat is decided on not so much by Jim, but by our director team under Jim's leadership. He really pulls people in and makes team decisions. It's been a lot of fun for me going through those processes, Jim, and I thank you for that team approach that you take in leading us. Finally, there's Gordon Vatican. Gordon, I saved you for last. I would have to say that aside from my family, no person has had a greater influence on my life than Gordon. I worked with him for 25 years, and now he's like family to me. Having hired me in a full-time capacity when I was just 19 years old, Gordon set out on a mission to develop me for success, both personally and professionally. I've screwed up plenty along the ways, don't get me wrong, but that was me. I've always been able to go to Gordon for advice. He's taught me so many things I wouldn't even know how to begin to describe them. It's no secret that Gordon Vatican knows team play as much as anybody on the planet. He genuinely cares about, or the genuine care that he shows toward those who either work for him or play on his teams is indescribable and amazing. I can't begin to describe it. I'll give you an example. Right after our tournament, the women won in 1990, you typically get a championship ring. And shortly after that, after I had my ring, within a year, I went into our men's room to wash my hands, probably because I've been working on a pin setter. We have to do that at 8-lane centers too. And took my ring off, laid it on the sink, washed my hands, turned around, walked out and left the thing laying there. And realized 5 minutes later that I had left it in there. I went running back in and it was gone. I couldn't believe it was gone. And I was distraught, and of course I told Gordon what had happened. A few months later I had a birthday, and on my birthday he walks in with a little box in his hand, and it was this thing right here. I'm too fat to wear it now, but it was a brand new gold championship ring that he had specially made and paid for out of his own pocket. And it's just the kind of guy he is with people that he works with. So, Gordon, I just want to thank you for your mentoring, your friendship through all these years, as well as placing so much faith in me when I was nothing but a kid. Thank you very much. Finally, yes, there is an end. Finally, thank you again to the love of my life, Anne Marie. Being a bowler herself, and she's a 300 shooter too, by the way. She understands and appreciates what it means to play this game at a high level. And more than that, life off the lanes is so much fun with her. What guy wouldn't want to have a gal whose favorite pastimes include golf, poker, traveling to places with blue water and stuff like that. So, and I'm very lucky to have you in my life, and thank you for your love and support. And that's really about it, folks. So in closing, I want to once again thank George Keene and the Hall of Fame Committee and the Great Plains USBC for this wonderful honor. Thanks so much.